On 23rd Feb 2026, the Union Home Ministry introduced a new anti-terror policy of India based on zero tolerance. Yes, we are talking about Prahar. Hi, hello everyone. Welcome to the State of Affairs brought to you by Shankar IAS Academy. So, Prahar, the full form is Policy for Response Against Hostile Activities and Radicalism. So, it is the new National Counter-Terrorism Policy and Strategy of India. So, what are the core doctrines of the Prahar? Zero tolerance towards extremism and terrorism, protection of national citizens. That means we will ensure that in the fight against the terrorism and extremism and to strengthen the national security, no citizen and their fundamental rights will be violated. And the next is strengthening the national security through various measures. So these are the three doctrines of the Prahar policy. So why we need a Prahar policy now? Because we can see that the nature of the threat itself is changing, because we are fighting the cross-border terrorism for a very long time, and in the recent time we can see a rise of cross-border cyber threats, and also we have concerns associated with the drones, and we can see that radicalization. So the nature of the radicalization itself is changing with the emergence of social media and a digital platform. And the next is terror financing, and also concerns associated with the chemical, biological, nuclear, and digital weapons. So all these factors can, pose a threat to the national security, and that is why at present we need a framework like Prahar. And talking about the evolution of India's anti-terrorism laws. So before discussing the core principles or the pillars of the Prahar, we have to understand about the evolution of anti-terrorism laws in India. So we can divide them into three periods or three phases: before 1980s, after 1980s, and present. So before 1980s, we had important legislations like the National Security Act of 1980, and also we had the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act of 1967. So these were the primary legislations that dealt with the national security before 1980s. And also we had the Armed Forces Special Power Act of 1958. Armed Forces Special Power Act of 1958. So this will give more power to the armed forces to deal with the regions affected by extremism and terrorism. And after 1980s, we can see that the Indian state faced major political as well as security concern. That was the rise of Punjab insurgency. And during this time, the government of India brought the TADA Act, that is the Terrorism and Disruptive Activities Prevention Act of 1985. So this act was passed in 1985 and came to force in 1987, and later we extended this act to 1995. But later, citing concerns associated with the human rights, we repealed this act. And after the parliament attack of 2001, we brought the POTA, that is Prevention of Terrorism Act of 2002, to deal with the terrorism and extremism in India. And later, citing the human rights violations, we again repealed the POTA. So currently the TADA and the POTA, they are not active in India. But we strengthened the UAPA, and this is still active in India. And we also have certain complementary legislations to deal with the national security. For example, we have the PMLA, that is the Prevention of Money Laundering Act of 2002. So this will give authority to the Enforcement Directorate to seize the illegal money like black money and all. And next we have the National Investigation Agency Act of 2009. So this was National Investigation Agency was formed after the Mumbai terror attack. So we have the National Investigation Agency Act of 2009, which gives, which established the National Investigation Agency to investigate into the factors that or the issues that are raising concerns about the national security. And talking about the 7 pillars of the Prahar. So now we'll see the 7 pillars of the Prahar. What are the 7 pillars? The first is prevention. Prevention of the terrorism and extremism through intelligence and coordination, disrupting the financing and the logistics to the organizations, monitoring the online radicalization initiatives, and also through strengthening the infrastructure in the border region. So preventing the extremism and the terrorism is the first major pillar of the Prahar initiative. And how we can prevent the terrorism and extremism through coordination and intelligence sharing, through disrupting the financing and logistics, monitoring the organizations which are engaged in online radicalization, and also through strengthening the border region and the infrastructure in the border area. And the next important principle or the pillar of the Prahar is the response. So here we are focusing on rapid multi-agency action and also strengthening the special terror forces in India and and strengthening them both at the central level as well as in the state level, and also conducting proper investigation and prosecution of the culprits and conspirators who are involved in the crime. And the next pillar of the Prahar is capacity building of the institutions. So here we are focusing on installation of modern equipment and technology to strengthen the security and skill training and advanced and skill training to the anti-terror forces, and also establishing standardized procedures to deal with the crimes. For example, like I mentioned, the PMLA gives authority to the Enforcement Directorate, while the National Investigation Agency Act of 2009 gives authority to the National Investigation Agency. So here the problem is both agencies which are working towards strengthening the national security, but both are receiving their power or authority from different sources. So here, through this Prahar framework, we are planning to establish a common or a uniform procedure or a protocol to deal with the crimes to strengthen the national security. And the next principle or the pillar is the human rights and the rule of law. So one of the doctrines of the Prahar initiative is nothing but protection of the national citizens or the citizens. So here we will make sure that we will follow the due process to ensure the rights and to protect the rights of the citizens. So we will make sure that the right to life, the freedom, as well as the equality is not violated in our actions against the terrorist activities. So one side we are focusing on fighting terrorism, and on the other side we are focusing on strengthening the human rights and protecting the rights of the people. So here we will be following the due process. We will be ensuring constitutional protection to the people, and also we will make sure the judicial oversight. And in case if there is any violation, then we will have remedies through the judiciary. And we will also establish, we will strengthen the legal framework and investigation, to ensure that the investigation is unbiased without any prejudice towards any particular community or a particular region. And the next pillar is the addressing the root causes of the terrorism and extremism. So what are the major causes behind or the root causes behind the terrorism and the extremism? Socio-economic underdevelopment. So the government will work to ensure the socio-economic progress of the terrorism or extremism affected region, and then we will engage with the community to deal with the terrorism, and then we will focus on de-radicalization and monitoring of the organizations which are engaging in radicalization. And the next pillar is the global coordination. So we will engage with the other countries, we will engage with the other institutions to deal with to fight the terrorism and the extremism. For that, we have plans to sign legal cooperation treaties with other countries. We have planned to strengthen our position in the counter-terrorism forums. For example, we have the Financial Action Task Force. So strengthening our position in such forums, and also we will engage with the United Nations and the bodies of the United Nations to fight the extremism and terrorism. And we will focus on extradition. That means, for example, we have certain cases. The recent issue is the Tahavur Rana, one of the conspirators behind the Mumbai terror attack. So, he was extradited from the United Nations, and he faced the judiciary in India. So we will make such initiatives to ensure the national security and to fight the terrorism. And also we will engage in joint investigations to deal with to find the people who are who are the reason behind the extremism or who are supporting the terrorism. And the next is recovery and resilience. So here we will be focusing on community restoration, rehabilitation support, for example, employment, physical rehabilitation, and also psychological rehabilitation for the people who are affected by terrorism and extremism. And the next we will be focusing on public-private partnership in crisis response. So this will ensure a sustainable, socio-economic progression, and at the same time restoration of the communities and the regions who are affected by terrorism and extremism. And what are the future priorities of the Prahar? So the Prahar is not just concerned about the present, it is also considering the future. So for the future, the Prahar is considering the interagency cooperation, legal framework modernization, strengthening the state level counter-terrorism agencies, international collaboration, integration of technology and innovation to strengthen the national security, and also legal expertise integration, for a sustainable fight against, or to ensure a sustainable security to the country. So these are the future priorities of the Prahar. So the Prahar is not just concerned about the present; it is also focusing on future. So I hope you understood the topic. So we'll meet you in another video with another interesting and informative topic. So in the meantime, take care of yourself. We'll see you in another video. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and also share the content with your friends and family. Thanks for watching. Have a nice day.